Yeah.
What's up, guys? It's Cody from Treadway Defensive Concepts, where we help gun owners become more responsibly armed citizens. Today I'm going to be talking about the Modern Samurai Project Red Dot Instructor course that I took back in October 29th and 30th. Took the class in a place called Maxton, North Carolina, a place called Griffin Group. For the class, I used this Glock 17 with the Holosun 507C and Surefire X300 and a Philster floodlight. That's what I used for the class. Of course, OEM magazines and some unnamed mag pouches. It wasn't a reloading class or anything like that. It was just basically a shooting class. We just had to have multiple magazines on us up at the firing line. So the class started at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, and it started with a safety brief and how we were to act, or what we were supposed to do if somebody ended up injured. That's always a good thing. Scott runs a hot range. Basically, guns are always loaded at all times unless he says so. After we got the safety brief out of the way, we went around and introduced ourselves to the whole class. Basically, who are we and why are we here and what are we looking to learn? After that, Scott discussed shooting in the rain, where he talked about either using Rain X or this stuff called cat crap that you can put on your optic it's basically a water repellent. Then he brought up our backup irons necessary. He says they are. I tend to agree. Because, I mean, if you got gaps on your gun, why not have something there? They don't add any weight or anything like that. So, if you got the spot for them, have them on the gun. First shots happened around 10 o'clock, sorry. And for the first shots, we were confirming our zero. We confirmed zero at 10 yards. Scott likes 10-yard zero. Doesn't really make a difference to me. I've got a gun zeroed at 25 and a gun zeroed at 10. The difference between them is negligible. It's like 0.7 inches. So if you've got a problem that is bigger than 0.7 inches, you're living a hard life, as Scott would say. After we got the gun zeroed, Scott moved into body mechanics, and that helps you mitigate recoil or manage recoil. We talked about posture, stance, all that kind of stuff. And for this, we demonstrated on each other a lot. So each student would have a partner, and we would demo the stuff on our partners. Basically, like for stance, we'd stand with our feet basically just shoulder width apart. And that gives you stability from left to right, but it doesn't give you any stability from front to back. So you put 1 foot forward, and that gives you that stability from front to back, as well as that stability from side to side. So we'd demo stuff like that on each other, and so on and so forth. From there, we talked about the grip. And for grip, Scott showed us his grip, had us mimic it, and he'd come through and correct anything that he saw us doing wrong with the way he grips the gun. So he would basically recreate his grip with us on our gun. Once he'd done that, he drew a little arrow on both hands. He drew a line on one hand and an arrow on the other, and you would line those up, and that was basically how he was gripping the gun. From there, we moved into what he calls the berm exercise. What this is there's no target, and you're standing 3 yards from the berm, maybe. And all you're doing is you're firing 6 shots as fast as you can for 6 repetitions. Now, the purpose of it was you were going to do something different for each rep. So the first rep we did it the way we always shot, right? So, you know, whatever. It's the way you always shot. The second rep, you would put a leg more forward and do it again. See how that helped you track the dot better. This drill was to basically track dot movement, or figure out a way to help you track the dot better. Third rep, we would, instead of our arms being completely locked out, he'd make sure that your arms were bent slightly. Fourth rep was about the same thing. Fifth rep was making sure the grip was correct. And then the sixth rep was to whatever we found that we liked and wanted to implement going forward. And then we did a hot wash after that. So that took us up to about 11 o'clock. And at 11 o'clock, we started working on the draw. And the way Scott does it is he works it in reverse. So we start from full presentation and do it in reverse. And Scott has this thing where he's got a 95-5, a 90-10, and 80-20 sort of philosophy on presenting the gun. Meaning that when you're at I guess it'd be a high compressed ready, once you're at this position, that's your 80% mark. So once you get here, you kind of just glide out the rest of the 20%. 90% is pretty much the same thing. You're just confirming the dot in that last 10%. And the same thing with 95-5 is that last 5%, it's a mental confirmation that that dot is where it's supposed to be. That was my takeaway from it. Somebody else might have something else to say about it, but that was my takeaway from it. He also talks about his 4 P's, which is present, prep, pinky, press. So we're going to start the presentation, prep the trigger, pinky pressure, which causes the dot to drop down from 12 o'clock, and then you're going to press the trigger when the dot is in the acceptable area of accuracy. He also talks about sooner, not faster. We want to get rid of useless frenetic motion. And if you can't find the dot, move your head, knock the gun to find the dot, and then adjust. Then put your head back in that same position on the next rep. After that, we talked about hand positions and where they start. Hand positions as you start to draw the gun, whether it be the high surrender position, fencing position, or the cheat position where you're standing down holding the bottom of your shirt or whatever. We would micro drill each of those positions and to get the full firing grip on the gun. He also talks about going on the B, not the P, of the beep on a par timer. And you want to move both hands at the same time, stuff like that. After that, we moved to lunch. We went to lunch. After we got back from lunch, we talked about red dots up close, which would be, 3 yards and in. And he talks about using only the necessary amount of information required to make an acceptably accurate shot at the speed and distance required. Basically, stop holding the dot to a higher standard than your irons. If you're needing to make an A-zone shot at 3 yards, you do not need to see front sight, rear sight in perfect alignment to make a A-zone shot at 3 yards. You can use the whole back of the gun at 3 yards to make an A-zone shot. And we went through some different drills using different methods of using the red dot in a similar fashion. After that, we went into transitioning from targets from a A-zone target to the A-zone in the head. Yeah, that was quite interesting because we would use that gross sight picture versus the fine sight picture, or the more refined sight picture for the headshots. He talks about moving your eyes before the gun, like your eyes move first and then bring the gun up to it. Because if you don't, you end up over swinging or overshooting the target. After that, we all lined up and we all did a one-shot draw on the steel at 25 yards. The way we done this was interesting because it was sort of a competition. We lined up in 2 lines, and each person would draw and fire their round. If both people got the hit, fastest time won. If one person missed, whoever hit won, of course. If both people missed, you both done it again. But we did that until everybody had cycled through, and winner got a t-shirt. After that, that was basically the end of day 1. And yeah. After the one-shot draws at 25, we ended the day there. And Scott did a hot wash and asked for any questions, feedback, and so on and so forth. And we come back on day 2. Day 2 started at 9 o'clock Sunday morning. And that started with the safety brief again. And then Scott went over a summary of the day ahead and asked for any questions. Shooting commenced with Scott mentioning the 3 modes of practice. He got those from Steve Anderson and another name that I can't remember off the top of my head. But I do remember him mentioning Steve Anderson's name. But those 3 modes of practice are, you got accuracy mode, speed mode, and then what's called real mode, or Steve Anderson calls it match mode. But basically, it's how you're going to shoot either at a match or in real life. Scott likes to start with accuracy mode because as the training or his practice sessions go on throughout the day, he likes to go fast. So for the accuracy drill, we set a accuracy standard and a distance and the number of rounds we wanted to fire. And the accuracy standard was a 2-inch box, 2-inch square, at 10 yards, we were going to fire 10 rounds. We did that 3 times. And for the first rep, Scott and his AI walked the line and gave everybody feedback, diagnosed each shooter down the line. For the second string, we self-diagnosed ourselves. Third string, our partners diagnosed us. Our partners diagnosed us. And that was it for the accuracy drill. After that, Scott broke down the bill drill, and we practiced shooting it at 5 yards at first. Then moved it back to 7. He gave a little cheat code for shooting it at 7 yards that he likes to use. But he got us all there. Everybody was shooting clean bill drills. Maybe not as fast as he would have liked, but we were all shooting clean bill drills. Once we all gotten to the point of shooting them clean, we had a bill drill contest where the fastest person who shot the bill drill also won a t-shirt. After that, we broke for lunch. After we come back from lunch, we talked about shooting strong hand only. Whenever we're shooting strong hand only, we've lost 50% of the grip on our gun, right? So one of the better ways to mitigate that recoil is with the thumb on the firing hand. Scott uses 3 methods to help with that. One of them being the bent thumb on the side of the frame, sort of like that. Another one is stretching the thumb out to basically try to touch the front of the muzzle with the thumb. And the other one is what he calls Delta thumb, and he said he calls it that because he got it from a Delta guy. Basically what that is, that's flagging the thumb up and pressing back here, pressing to the side with the thumb. We did 3 rounds with each of those methods, and just figured out which one we like better. After that, we talked about transitions again. And this is where I had some pretty damn good success, because we did a float drill where we shot the 2-inch circles again, transitioning between them. And after that, we did like a little steel challenge drill where we had 2 pieces of steel at about 10 yards. And the 2 pieces, it was 3 pieces of steel, but he had 2 pieces of steel pretty close together with another piece of steel off to the side about 10 yards, 15 yards maybe. And the goal was we'd start with the gun on target, trigger prep, and on the beep we'd fire 3 rounds and then get 3 hits on steel. I did the drill in 1.06 seconds. Okay. But that was the fastest time and got all 3 hits. So I did manage to win a t-shirt. Whenever you won something at his class, he gives you a card, and you go to his website and enter the password that's on the card, and yeah, you get a t-shirt that way. But yeah, I had some success there. But after that, we did another. After that, he gave everybody the chance to shoot the black belt patch standards. I did not meet those, but there's a couple of guys in the class that came really close. I don't think anybody did it, but like I said, there's a couple of guys that come really close. But all in all, class was great. I learned a lot. I hope to go train with Scott again sometime soon. But that's the AAR for the class. If y'all have any questions, leave them down in the comments. If you're interested in training with me, visit treadwaydefensiveconcepts.com. Follow us on Facebook. Whatever. Y'all have a good rest of the day and take it easy.